Coming up next, we have Super Mario Odyssey Any Percent with GameNerd607. Take it away.
Game Nerd. I'm doing Mario Odyssey Any Percent today. Right now, before I start the run, I am setting up the date because this will be used for a trick used later in the run called DSTA, Daylight Savings Time Abuse. And we're starting now.
Sweet, and I'll just quickly introduce myself. I am SMO Joy-Con. I also run this game. Slightly worse than Game Nerd does, but I'll still bully him whenever he makes mistakes.
Yeah. So there you saw me like just wait a bit before I started the game. Because this, you have to like hit the trick within like a 20-second time window.
Yeah, 20 seconds.
Yeah. So you have to like wait a bit. You can't be too quick and you can't be too slow.
It'll become way more clear when we hit Sand Kingdom, the third kingdom of the game, where this trick comes into play. It'll show itself why it's important. And starting off the game, it's just showing off the first main bit of movement, rolling, which is the fastest way to move around in this game.
Yeah.
And you pick up your companion, Cappy, who is, quite crucial in the run.
And you'll notice that I'm shaking the controller a lot. That is because Nintendo sucks and they like to make motion controls do better versions of basically every piece of movement in the run.
And coming up here, if we have the newest trick discovered in the run, Hydrophobia, which unfortunately missed, but you can have Cappy get stuck on that question mark block and get launched into one of those frogs and saves about 0.7. And as I said, newest trick discovered about 2 months ago.
Yeah. You'll see I'm not quite moving in a straight line with the frog. That is something called vectoring. It is actually faster to move in a 45-degree angle in this game with most things.
And that jump there is called left side, very hard jump that saves approximately 2 seconds to get up to this boss fight quicker. And yeah, he nailed it. Very close. And that's Gap Kingdom. First kingdom out of 14 in the run. And one of the harder ones. Not the hardest, but still pretty challenging.
No intro there. So, that's
And yeah, coming up into Cascade is what is arguably one of the hardest tricks in the run. I believe GameNerd is not committing to it because it is very ridiculously difficult, but he will give it 2 attempts, I believe.
1 or 2 attempts.
It's called DSS, which basically, if you see in the background, there is a massive rock wall that kind of forces you to take a left here and go across that bridge that will fall down after he picks up his first move. However, if you hit a very precise like texture in the wall, you can reset Mario's dive so he can jump, wall jump and dive again, meaning you can barely scale up this wall, saving 8 seconds. And we'll see if he can hit it after this first moon cutscene.
Fingers crossed.
And this is also another important thing. There are 124 moons we need in the game. Each kingdom has a different requirement, how many moons you need to collect. Cascade is 5, one of the shorter kingdoms, but some have up to 20.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you have to collect the certain amount of moons in each kingdom, and you can't just collect them anywhere.
Oh! That is insane.
That is a 10-second time save right there. What insane trick.
So basically the world record holder of this category is not even consisting of that trick. So the fact that it was able to be pulled off in an event run is insanity.
When new people who do it, like they can have like 75% like clears out of Cascade, and that will drop to like 10% after implementing that trick.
Definitely a massive trick and awesome that he nailed it. Very cool to show guys as well. Now, the only issue now that we have is, as we mentioned earlier, GameNerd set the time, and he is now about 10 to 15 seconds ahead of where he anticipated himself to be. So it shouldn't be bad, but there will have to be possibly a tiny bit of routing change to compensate for the fact that he's moving so fast through this game. So as you can see there, he's just quickly checking the time on the system clock to know approximately how long he's got to mess with.
So if I'm leaving the kingdom and the time is at 1:59, I'm about on pace to get it.
And coming up here, GameNerd is going to be doing another trick, and this is one of the biggest tricks in the game that you can consistently pull off, called a moon clip. And basically, as you'll see here, he's going to spawn him into this chest. And I think he got it.
Yeah, I think that looks good.
Perfect.
There we
That's
go.
So basically what happens there is Mario has a thing called skew, where he can be tilted off his regular axis, and doing a cap throw perfectly straightens him up again. But that will cause Mario to kind of flick up and into a ceiling. Now, if you collect a moon at the same time as doing this, it'll stop the trigger that like kind of says, you're in a ceiling, stop that, like come back down. It'll pause that, meaning you can skip it and stay in the wall. That can be done with basically any moon near a wall, and also can be done by taking damage is another way of doing it, which you'll see in the 7th Kingdom of the run.
Something like that, yeah.
So far, everything we've done so far has been pretty linear. You're going through Cab Kingdom, you've got one goal, get to the end. Cascade Kingdom, you have to get the first moon and then do the boss fight at the top of the kingdom. It's kind of non-negotiable. Now you're given a lot more choice, which is where routing comes into play and makes the kingdoms way more complex, and different routes that are harder but faster, or slower but more consistent, can be chosen, and this is one of the biggest ones. Sand Kingdom is a massive open kingdom where you can go basically anywhere instantly. You do not need to complete the story of the kingdom to progress. As you can see, everything is ice. You're supposed to stop it being so cold and return to a desert. We don't do that because we don't care. We just want to leave and beat the game.
Yeah. So, and this is where that setting up the clock comes into play. That seed I just planted, it usually takes about 20 minutes to grow. But the Nintendo, they made it so it runs off the Switch time. So I just have to wait here and wait for DSTA, daylight savings, to hit. So when it ticks over to 3 AM, the seed will be planted.
There we go.
There we go. So now the seed should be fully grown, and I can get that moon.
So yeah, daylight savings is an absolute pain when you're trying to get some sleep in. But for us, it's very important because it means that those 21 minutes have gone past. The game thinks we've been playing for an extra hour. And yeah, that means the seed can grow without having to wait a really long time.
And like you saw there, like you have to, when you're setting it up, you have to wait a certain amount of time at the start screen so that it plants at the right time. So, and because I did DSS, I was too early, so I had to wait in that room instead.
And that's a small trick he did there that is called Sandfire, where basically if you are rolling and go a certain amount of height off the ground, you can get speed by leaving the roll animation when you land. It's a small little thing that saves a bit of time. It's pretty challenging. Coming up here is Drown. You'll see him go up and trigger that bullet bill that spawns, and he leaves Cappy there, and hopefully that Cappy should home back into the bullet bill. Like that. Perfect. Meaning he can get straight back up there and skip having to climb back up to go great and then keep doing this.
We'll get that moon later on. It's not faster to get it. We come back to this area, so it's faster to just get it when we come back to this area.
And from basically this moment forward, this entire time, the camera is really important because there is a platform cycle, so a platform is constantly moving in that area that we were previously in, and we need that cycle to line up to the best ability so we can use... Oh, that's really unfortunate. Basically, to get into a roll animation as quickly as possible, you want to spin, ground pound, and press Y. However, those spin inputs can often be dropped, meaning that you ground pound and press Y, which does a dive, which is you can't stop doing that action once you've started it, and has a set speed that means that can happen, which is really unfortunate. Doesn't lose too much time there.
Did I grab them? Yeah,
he did.
Yeah. So now I'll have to... Unfortunately, I now have to go back and re-break that crate.
And unfortunately there, you can manipulate this bullet bill in a way that it breaks the crate without you having to capture it. It's pretty tight and requires some quite specific movements, but can save good time if hit.
I'm going to...
So over here you usually grab the crate by going up to where it spawns. Unfortunately, because of that death, the moon is no longer spawned and he has to go and break the crate again, which is a bit annoying, but it's alright.
Right?
And these platforms over here, the ones that are moving just to the right of the screen, are the ones that we would be nipping, and I think we're in a really good position. Oh, a pretty decent position right now.
Mario did not let me grab there. Okay, that's a bit annoying. So usually, if Mario let you grab there, I would have gotten a good cycle. And we just used the platform to push us through the wall. Because that's how this game works. You can basically use anything to push you through the wall.
And yeah, so usually to get into this sub-area, you have to go talk to a Sphinx who gives you a riddle, and you have to answer it, and then there's a slow cutscene where the Sphinx moves out the way. You can skip all of that by just going straight into the back entrance.
Yeah, let's go the back way.
And now we're getting our final moon in Sand Kingdom, and this means we can leave to go to either lake or wooded. You get to choose the kingdom. Unfortunately, there is no cool route in here. You just go to the one that is automatically selected for you.
Yeah. There is a thing where with the next kingdom selection, we have a choice to go to either Lake Kingdom first or Wooded Kingdom first. That happens 2 times in the game, but we just go to Lake first because that's just what's there defaulted in. And it doesn't really matter unless you're doing a run that uses the paintings, because based on what kingdom you select first, the painting order will be different. And that doesn't really matter in 80%, so we just choose what's defaulted there.
There are a couple people who choose to go to the Wooded Kingdom, the other option here first, just because it is a ridiculously difficult kingdom. It is probably the hardest one in the run, so it loses about 0.2, so you know, not too much.
Yeah.
But most people do choose Lake because it has a very difficult trick coming up. You have 1 attempt, and the moon clip that we mentioned earlier in Cascade, where GameNerd was able to kind of go through the wall, those are very, not very easy, but a lot easier to do when a moon is spawning in. However, if a moon is already in the kingdom without you having to do some other action to kind of bring it into existence, then to get the right skew is a frame-perfect input that GameNerd will attempt here.
Oh, if Mario wants to stay on. Oh.
Oh, hang on.
And that's it!
So that is a very precise, I believe, frame perfect. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, frame perfect.
And
yeah, frame perfect.
so if you miss that, there is another way to get out of bounds. You do still do the same route. It loses, getting it saves 3 seconds. And it means that you can grab not only that moon, which is usually very far out of the way, but also this moon, which you can get the checkpoint out of bounds and then warp up to later.
Yeah. And we're doing all of this to skip having to fight the boss. So we get 3 extra moons that the boss would usually give us.
And
So it's just a bit faster. So, yeah.
another cycle here, but not too important to manipulate the camera with. If you can get it on screen more, it does save a bit of time, but not the most important camera name, unlike the platform from earlier in the run. And there are 2 more moons in this kingdom, and are you going to go do the camera clip?
Yeah.
So there's a clip coming up where, using first-person mode, you can reset the way the camera is facing and spawn one of the lock ladies, which is the NPCs in this kingdom, and mean you can talk to her through a wall by standing in a very precise location, like that.
Yeah. And that saves having to go through the whole way. Which doesn't save much in any percent, but it's a lot easier movement because the whole way is pretty tight.
And as I mentioned, this next kingdom is ridiculously difficult. For basically any level runner you are of the game, this will be the hardest, either this one or Luncheon Kingdom, which is much later. And the reason for that is because, you know how I mentioned the different routes that are possible in each kingdom? This has a lot of them. There is beginner route, intermediate route, and nut clip / advanced route, and GameNerd will be going for the advanced route, where you can do another one of the moon clips that are coming up in this kingdom, and stay out of bounds for another moon, that is usually not accessible until after you progress the story, which takes a long time. Then you have to do some momentum stuff to get up a ramp that is usually unclimbable. It's a very full-on ramp.
Yeah, it's hard to find. I doubt you'd be able to find 30 seconds in Wooded Kingdom where there isn't a lot of like cool movement happening.
If you nail Wooded Kingdom, it looks incredibly cool. However, I mean, GameNerd's pretty good at this game. He's pretty consistent at it. When I do Wooded Kingdom, it usually results in a reset. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
Another thing we haven't mentioned is coins are very important in this run because you can buy shot moons, as GameNerd is about to do here. When we went into the Sphinx room, that was not only important because it's fast, but also gives you lots of coins.
Yeah.
There are three shot moons in the round that GameNerd is doing, so you need 300 coins plus 20 for 2 other moons.
Yeah. But if I don't have enough coins, there is a backup, which still involves coins, but just slightly less coins. So, yeah. I think the most optimal route needs 410 coins, whereas I only need 300 coins.
And so coming up here is Nut Clip, the clip that I mentioned earlier. It's works the exact same way as Chest Clip, but now instead of clipping up, you're clipping through a wall. And that's perfect. Going through a wall, and then there is some very finicky movement out here. So,
oh my god, dude.
So that's really unfortunate. Basically, you're supposed to do a backflip there, which is the same inputs as a long jump, which he accidentally did there, but you have to be stationary.
Oh, okay. No, so I just tried to do that without having to do a wall jump. I thought I had enough fun, but apparently not. So I'm just going to play it safe and do a wall jump there.
So that's the momentum stuff that I'm talking about. You cannot run up that ramp normally, which is why GameNerd is mashing jump to triple jump consistently up that ramp, as it's the only way to keep enough speed so that you can run all the way up that ramp.
And because I clipped in, I will have to get a story moon here coming up, because usually you would get a moon that's out of bounds there. But because I clipped in, I am 1 moon short, so I have to make up that moon with this long story moon.
So basically, in the beginning round, there are 4 story moons you have to get. 1 here and 3 multi-moon, like the 3 moons you multi-moon by beating the boss at the very top. So usually you don't collect this moon or the main multi-moon. Now, because we are missing a moon, we have to get this 1 extra moon. Also, don't forget to get Dead End.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So this is also going to be weird because it throws off the movement for another skip that is coming up, Flower Road skip, which I'm assuming is
No,
now.
that's why I cried.
I've now realised that is so that he can do this movement. Normally, it's quite tight and finicky movement. You have to get a good triple jump off a ledge, a very small ledge here. And the P-switch you can kind of see to the right of the screen spawns a very slow-moving road that takes you over to here. However, doing that triple jump, you can just get straight over here and skip the road entirely. And that was very clean. That is some of my favourite movement in the game.
Yeah.
It looks very visually pleasing to do.
Also, this next bit coming here, we roll cancel and then bounce on Cappy as you throw him out to clear that gap. It's a really cool looking piece of movement. Now we're just doing some basic movement with the uproot move. There is a way that you can make the uproot move a bit faster, where if you jump as it's going like off a ledge, you get this thing called Speeding Up Boy, where it basically makes it jump a lot faster. I don't know why it's called Speeding Up Boy, because it's an onion and not a nut, but I guess the SMO community is obsessed with nuts.
And just there you saw him jump down off the top of that like structure there. That's because the boss fight that you can fight to like progress the story is there. However, these 3 moons down at the base of the kingdom are much faster to collect because they don't start up a minute-long cutscene.
Yeah.
And instead you can just run through here and go into this sub-area, which is one of the most annoying sub-areas in the game because it's all based around cycles.
Yeah. But there is a way where there's a clip with that moon where you basically triple jump and clip through the wall. Same thing as you saw me do in Lake Kingdom. And it basically gets rid of all the cycles.
And that brings an end to Wooded Kingdom. I reckon there's a good chance for donations going into Cloud, if we've got any of those.
We haven't had any donations come in so far, but we'll take this moment just to talk about that for ASGX 2024, we are proud to support Cure Cancer's Game on Cancer initiative, a charity which funds early career cancer researchers who are working across all areas of cancer research. Your support is greatly appreciated, and if you'd like to donate, there should be some QR codes around, and also there is a jar to the right where you can, if you have any spare coins in your pocket, feel free to support a good cause. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect, thank you. So now we're kind of back into the more linear kingdoms, where this one is quite simple. You only have to fight Bowser, and it is kind of a roadblock on your way through the game. The Bowser fight, unlike... Oh, I forgot about that. That's a trick called Cloud Boost, where basically as that cloud expands really fast, you can keep the momentum that comes from it and get across faster.
Yeah, sometimes you can get some really rapid boosts, and it's so good. Like, you'll just get launched across.
And picked up the hint out there in the Bowser fight. And that makes it so you can save time in the lane and not having to get another point off the cart. As you saw there, GameNerd streamed out Stratanith, which is kind of a long joke in the Odyssey community. There is a runner called Stravos who hates RNG, so said that if you scream Stratanith at the top of your lungs when you're going to that, it will always spawn in the optimal location, which it did just then. And with each of these Bowser hits, he's backflipping into Bowser's hat, which he's throwing out, meaning that it gets like automatically fixed to Mario's head, skipping like the entire sequence where Bowser will then throw out his hat, and then you'll chase it down, grab the hat, Bowser will jump away and kind of throw some fireballs at you, and it skips a fair bit.
So here in Lost Kingdom, if you've played this game before, you would know that Klepto will usually steal your hat. But that plays a really long cutscene and a really long like string of movement. So, but Nintendo left the trigger zone in the game, so it's all based on trigger zone. So you can go around those trigger zones. It's basically what I'm doing right here. So as long as I don't stand in any area where the trigger zone is, I won't get my hat stolen. But after this, we go up to Klepto and we basically say, go away, we don't like you, and all the trigger zones are gone and we can stand anywhere we want. Yeah. Unless you die, then you have to go and talk to him again, basically. Oh.
And then there are a couple of things coming up here with these torpedoes. Firstly, he is manipulating that torpedo to shoot at a block in a specific way, so he can break it while also getting the other moon. And then here, he's going to get the second torpedo and will make it so he can move over to this crate while the torpedo is coming at him to stop waiting for that and then moving over. Both of those tricks save about 2 seconds.
Yeah. And then here's some cool movement here. Up throw, all that. When you're really close to the ceiling, you do an up throw and it just goes just out, so it's at the perfect spot where you can just dive into it, get a cap bounce, and dive out from under the bridge. Lower level speedrunners, like if you're new at a speedrunner, that's a bit of a hard movement, so you can just die and you spawn right at the Odyssey. So it's not too bad if you can't do that movement, but it is really cool looking movement.
And coming up next, we have the not the longest kingdom in the run, but the kingdom that requires the most moons to leave, and that is 20 moons and Metro Kingdom, which is one of the more like well-known kind of kingdoms in the run. It was used a lot in advertising. Really fun casually, sucks in a speedrun. Some super hard movement. On top of that, as I mentioned at the start of the run, hydrophobia was the most recently discovered glitch, or like time save in this run. However, we've had 2 time saves in about like the last year and a half of this run, and they were both found in the same glitch. And coming up is a strat called Giggler, where in a boss fight you will skip kind of like the auto-scroller path and completely changes the route of Metro Kingdom, or not completely, but does change the route of Metro Kingdom, so that is something to look out for.
Yeah, and right here we're just scaling some buildings, just taking the straightest line to City Hall. Usually in the game, casually you would just take some pipes, go around the long way. But we don't want the long way here. We want to just take the straightest line. So we scale some buildings, go over them, collect some moons on the way.
And coming up here, we have a trick that we cannot say the name of because for some reason the community decided they were going to put some swearing in it. However, let's just call it Goomba Heck, where you can skip half a cycle by jumping straight over towards those Goombas there and meet the platform as it's rising up, so you don't have to wait for platform cycles. Funny little anecdote, the moon clip was discovered in this sub-area with that moon, and the person who discovered it said, this is a useless glitch that will never be used. It is in fact the most useful glitch in the game and is used in basically every kingdom throughout all the runs. And as I mentioned, Giggler is a trick coming up here where you have to manip the way this Wiggler moves and you can clip out of bounds. Yeah. So unfortunately what happened there was because he missed the scoop throw into the tank instantly, the Wiggler moved further into the pattern, which meant it was too high. But usually you can do the same thing as a moon clip where you back with into a moon and you clip out of bounds, and then throughout this entire sequence you can go around and collect another moon that is available in the kingdom right now, and just means that you can kind of stop waiting and do something useful while you wait.
And here the Wiggler works on a pattern system. There's like 27 different patterns, and each of them has like a different way of dealing with it. So there's a spreadsheet that was made that outlines how the Wiggler moves with each pattern and how to identify what pattern you have. I have not learned that though, because it takes forever and it is really hard to like learn what to do. So thank you for the good luck.
So now we move into Metro Kingdom. So because the clip was, the day Metro, we were already in Metro Kingdom. Because the clip was missed in this fight, that moon that we originally were going to get while out of bounds in that fight, we now have to get here. And as mentioned, the coins were different depending on what route. This is why he is going to only spend 10 coins to get a slots moon instead of have to buy a shop moon for 100 coins. Like in Sand Kingdom, there is some movement here where you can leave Cappy out and capture a wire. It's like about a second of time save, but it's like a nice little trick. It's pretty consistent. And another trick, unlucky, is the scoot clip, where for some reason the scooter leans slightly to the left or right if you completely change the controller grip in your hands, which is why GameNerd had the controller in his hands in such a weird way. And it means you can barely tilt Mario's hitbox into the moon there and just kind of ignore the wall that's blocking it off. And now we say hi to this very sad and lonely man.
Yeah, we promote friendship here.
Yeah, so basically every moon in this game is done for getting a platforming challenge, exploring the game, or in this case, just chatting to some bloke on a bench. Pretty nice moon. One of the fan favorites, I would say. This is the moon that you can get out of bounds during the Mech Wiggler fight. And so instead of going here after talking to the bloke on the bench, you can go to the shop and get that moon instead of coming around to get this moon.
Yeah. So here we're going to do like a quick little spin through to collect all the slots at once, because they all just spawn in with the right thing. Normally, if you're a casual player, you would just hit them one by one, but we don't want to do that. That's slow. And now, we're going into a room called Bullet Building. I'm going to focus up for this one.
This room sucks. It's really difficult. So not only are the cycles, the way these poles work sucks. They're super janky and really easy to mess up. And then right here, you have to get the perfect timing for a bullet bill. So hopefully you can up throw and capture it. Oh, that was perfect as well. That movement is really difficult and really hard to line up the timing for.
And I also had to, that's another place where you can manip a cycle. I turned my camera up at the start of it to manip it.
Oh, I didn't even realize you did that. There you go.
Oh, no triple jump. Okay.
And now there's just a few quick moons. This checkpoint that he walked to was grabbed as he exited City Hall, which is, it's very in the way. It's hard to miss. However, it is crucial that you get it so you can warp here later in the run.
I tried to jump so I could get the cooler movement there, do the straight dive onto it.
And then, as I mentioned earlier in the run, in Cloud Kingdom with the Bowser boss fight, he grabbed a hint heart that gave him 200 coins. If you miss that, you have to then get a hint heart by ground pounding here and hitting like that little spot that you might be able to see under Mario. Unless you got enough coins in Sphinx, sometimes you can get lucky. Because the coins can vary, because Cappy is annoying and he likes to just do the exact opposite of what you want. If you want to capture something, if you home into it, he'll go for the coins. If you want him to grab a big pile of coins, he'll just grab the top few coins and give you like 50 coins instead of giving you 200. He's a really trolly guy like that. There. We're just doing some quick movement here. That's the final moon in Metro Kingdom. And that was, besides the not doing Giggler, that was a very good Metro Kingdom.
Yeah, actually it was.
One of the harder kingdoms in the run, and there are kind of two kinds of difficulties. There's the ones where you just die, you lose 30 seconds, and it sucks. But with Metro Kingdom, it is so easy to lose like 2 seconds every like 30 seconds. And you'll think you've played out of your mind, and then you'll lose like a minute and be like, where did that time all go? So it's very kind of invisible time save in that kingdom, and very hard to play well.
Yeah. So coming up here, the first moon in snow will be a Captain Toad moon, and there is a running joke in the community where it's like, how much snow do you leave him? Because he'll be hiding behind a bit of snow. I always try to get rid of as much snow as possible, and because people think that like if you get rid of all the snow, he'll then be cold. Because he's made himself the wall of snow to like keep him insulated. So right here, I'm just gonna bully Toad and get rid of all the snow. Just gonna roll cancel to the side.
And also there, like in Sand Kingdom, he let go of his roll a bit earlier. Oh, got rid of all the snow.
There we go.
He roll cancelled a bit, not roll cancelled, left the roll a bit earlier before hitting the ground so he could keep his speed. Unfortunately, ran into the wall, but it's the same kind of trick there. And yeah, just entering into Shiveria now. And then, yeah, this is where basically all the moons in Snow Kingdom are locked behind Peace. Oh, not all of them, but a lot of them. So the only real ones left are the story moons, and each story moon has one other moon attached to it. And so we basically have to go through each of those sub-areas to try and get the quickest ones.
So like, if you do Snowdram, you only have to do 2 of the sub-areas. But if you do Snowdram, which I will be doing, you only have to do 2 of the areas.
And without it, you do 3.
Yeah.
And there's another moon clip coming up here where it works the same as all the other ones.
And I missed it. I mistimed it a bit.
Unfortunately, you missed it there. But because this is any percent, that only loses 2 seconds-ish, I think, if missed.
1 second.
1 second. So it's not the biggest time save. However, in some of the longer categories, missing that can just kind of like kill your run. It's kind of important that you get out of bounds there, but fortunately, not the biggest deal here.
Because what that is in any percent is just a quicker line to this sub-area.
And here there is a little camera manip, or didn't happen. But basically you can keep one of those enemies alive, and that camera pan there will be shorter because Mario will be closer to the moon by the time that you kill the final Spiny, and it saves 0.5, but it's also based a bit on RNG, so can be a bit annoying.
But the RNG isn't too bad. Like, usually, if you're fast, it'll line up pretty well. Like, it's not like a massive RNG not in your favor moment. Luckily, it is most of the time in your favor.
And this is another room that kind of involves routing a lot. So here he's grabbing 4 Goombas and is going to hit that switch there and unlock this wall. However, with one of the most precise tricks in the run, you can clip through the edge of that wall and skip this entire getting the Goombas, which means the shot moon that he's going to get quite soon after this will then be got at the start of the run and you warp straight out of here.
And that clip he's talking about, it's so precise. You have to do such specific movement to set it up. You have to ledge grab, so that'll make Mario's position always consistent. If you ledge grab, then get up, he'll be in the same position. And then you go into first person mode to make Mario look a very certain way. You use some of the text that shows up in first person mode. So that just shows you how precise it is. You can do it without any of that setup, but it's so precise that it is just not worth doing it. It's worth taking the few seconds to just set it up.
And coming up here is a trick called Snowdram, and it is a trick jump from the top of the Odyssey to a painting moon, which is supposed to be out of reach, like all painting moons, but Nintendo didn't do very well, so we can just make this jump without any, without having to go through any of the paintings.
I honestly thought I was going to bump there. That was a tight one.
Had it covered. It's good.
Yeah.
Decent snow though.
Yeah.
Very good snow. And
also, you'll notice that I spin throw to grab the globe there. Spin throws in certain scenarios, it is faster to spin throw to grab something ahead of you than it is to cap throw. Just because the spin throw moves a lot quicker than cap throwing and homing in.
And we mentioned earlier with Lake and Wooded Kingdom that you have like a choice. The same thing happens here with Snow and Seaside.
Yeah.
You do have the choice, but we chose Snow just because it's
there.
It's there. It's faster. And at this point in the run, like both kingdoms are about the same difficulty, and you're not gonna, you know, resetting at any point this far in kind of sucks no matter what.
Yeah.
Seaside Kingdom, though, as a beginner, is one of the more boring kingdoms, but fortunately we have found 2 clips in this kingdom that make it a lot more interesting, both using the fish, which we'll pick up soon.
And one of them is also a beginner trick as well. It's recommended that everyone does it. So, yeah. But one is a bit harder.
Yeah, the first clip that we're coming up to in 2 moons' time is quite difficult, quite precise. And one of the, I want to say more recently discovered ones, it's been out for a while, but it's still fairly recent.
2021, dude.
Was it really?
Yeah. The anniversary in 2021.
4-year anniversary, I forgot. That's crazy. But yeah, as you can see, he's going over to this fish here, and hopefully we'll be able to get a clip. A lot of
dips.
Yeah. Like a lot of the clips in this game, unfortunately you have one try to hit it. It's not very repeatable, so hopefully he can hit it first try.
Although this is only one shot for a different reason, though.
And perfect. So basically there you can, a bit like the platform in Sand Kingdom, you can use the chest to push you out of bounds. This, surprisingly, unlike most clips, doesn't change the route at all, but means...
Oh my god, I clipped back and I was too high.
You can get this moon and the next one out of bounds. Unfortunately, he clipped in there. But I would say...
I think that still saves a bit of time.
Oh yeah, it still saves about 4 or 5 seconds instead of the full 8 seconds you can get.
Yeah. 6, it saves.
6,
yeah.
okay. And there's another trick coming up here, which is pretty unique. It basically, in this game, instead of having like a straight wall that tells you where the kingdom ends, you have these things called suckage barriers, which push you back in towards the mainland and kind of stop you from moving further forward. However, by either recapturing or capturing a enemy or grabbing a moon, you can cancel that barrier, and then here you can just sneak out of bounds because they couldn't be bothered to put any collision there.
Again, we're going into the Sphinx's vault via the back, if I can. This is a bit weird because the fish momentum can be a bit weird, so I had to be careful there. Usually you would just snipe that moon on the way back, but I missed it. I was too far out. So, and when that happens, you have to be very careful because when you're moving, when you stop moving with the fish, you still get momentum going forward. So you have to be very careful. It is very easy to clip back in bounds there.
And so I mentioned earlier in the run, there are two main kingdoms that are really hard no matter what level you're playing at. Wooded Kingdom, which we've already done, and Luncheon Kingdom, which is coming up now. Luncheon is another kingdom that has many different routes depending on what difficulty or like what level you want to play at, and all of them are ridiculously difficult and have a lot of strats.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the more exciting kingdoms coming up here, I'd say.
Yeah. And something I haven't mentioned, you might have been seeing me like just mashing the buttons really quickly. Mashing actually surprisingly saves a lot of time in this game. Like, the rate you mash at to skip all that text, you have to be pretty quick with it because you can lose up to 14 seconds with bad mashing, or even more. But like, that's average players lose up to like 14 seconds.
I've also realized we forgot to mention something that's probably a big question on people's minds. Why is the game in Chinese? It is not because we speak Chinese, but in fact the text boxes are shorter in Chinese and save, I believe, 14 seconds over English.
Yeah.
Give it somewhere in the tens. So yeah, it's just a small time save. You can change this in-game. Oh.
Oh, okay. No roll cancel. Usually we would just roll cancel off that ledge into the Speart fight. And something also I forgot to mention is for every damage I take, I am donating in $1 to the charity. So I've taken and there are a few sections in this game where you are forced to take damage, like in the Cloud Bowser fight and in the Moon Bowser fight coming up. On the last phase, you take a hit on the hats to make it more consistent to line up. So yeah. So there's a few times where like I have a minimum dollar amount that I will have to pay because of those moments.
And so we've talked a fair bit in the run about like multi-moons and story moons that kind of affect how the kingdom like looks, and the kingdom will kind of change depending on how many of them you get. So most of them, you know, you can afford to just skip them. However, Spew in here in Luncheon Kingdom is very in your face. So there is a strat where you can save about 7 seconds that is insanely challenging, where you can skip all these boss fights. For consistency, GameNerd hasn't gone for it.
Oh my god.
Oh, nice backup. But I have seen him do some of it in practice, and it is insanity.
Yeah. Because there's like parts where it's like, it's not just the jump to get around the boss that is hard. Like, it is the entire kingdom basically. It like puts it on like it turns it up to 11 basically.
Yeah, so basically there are lava bubbles all the way around the kingdom. They don't spawn before Spew it, and that is the big issue with this route. And yeah, there's a lot of moons in this town area, so you can run through them very quickly. Right there, he bonked on the pot intentionally. It keeps you lower to the ground, so you can land like 3 frames earlier, but it perfectly sets it up so you just save that little bit of time from landing slightly sooner.
Yeah. Also, this lava bubble that I'm about to catch is on a cycle, but funnily enough, the cycle doesn't start until you get close to it. So you have to try and be fast to get to that moon, but you can mess up like really badly at the beginning and still easily make the cycle because it hasn't started.
This is another room with cycles as the little cap, I don't know what they're called, but like
Launches, yeah,
cap launchers that move around are cycle based, so I believe you mimic the camera at the very start of the room just to get one a little bit quicker there.
Yeah. Not a very like obnoxious cycle, like it's just like it is like only like half a second time loss if it's not in your favor, because you can just throw Cappy and home in instead of throwing it to the cap launcher instead.
And those lava bubble jumps he did there looked pretty simple, but they're actually very, very finicky. and are very hard to get and require you to hit a slope at a specific angle that means that your jump goes ever so slightly higher, meaning you can barely make it up. Especially the first one is very difficult to line up that momentum.
Also what I just did there, breaking the cheese with that hammer, bro, it can be very annoying because if you're too far away from the cheese, the pans that he throws will go any which way. So what we do is, the easiest way to break it, just put the hammer, bro, like right up to the cheese. You want to kiss the cheese with the hammer, bro, and that will minimize the amount that the pans will skew out of the way, making your chances of hitting the cheese block that you want a lot higher.
Just a little cool thing there. While that moon was spawning, GameNerd threw out Cappy. It's just a very small optimization that meant that as soon as he was about to do the next bit of movement, Cappy was already out, so he didn't have to throw it. It's just a little cool thing that is done, which is something I really like about this game. The downtime is so minimal because even while you're waiting for things to happen, you're kind of setting up the next thing in anticipation. Oh. And here you're getting the final multi-moon, or the final 3 moons of the kingdom. And yeah, that was a really good launching kingdom.
Yeah.
Really
And you also want to, when you uncapture that meat, you want to wait a second before jumping, because there is a very annoying quirk of this game where when you uncapture something, you don't have your cap bounce back, and you need to land on the ground to get your cap throw back. But if you jump frame perfectly, you will not get your cap bounce back because the game did not register that you were standing on the ground. It is very annoying, so you just have to wait like a second before you cap jump, and then they'll basically be a non-factor.
And coming up here, we have one of the most annoying kingdoms in the run, Ruined Kingdom, which when you're playing casually, you'll get to this kingdom and be like, wow, there's this massive dragon, there's this really hype boss fight, and the second you play it for a second or third time, you realize it's really, really long, and well, not really long, but it's not the most entertaining thing.
Yeah.
However, you do get to do some fun movement around and kind of just flex in the boss arena.
Yeah. Also, this would be a good time to read out donations if there are any.
Yep, awesome. All right, we had a few donations that came in. We had $15 from Tarnished, who says, great tricks in Mario for the run. Save the animals and Mushroom Kingdom. We also had $40 from Damon Hunter with no comment. Thank you so much for that donation. And we had $5 from Duckable, who says, the person on screen is such an amazing gamer. What an inspiration. Love what he's doing, and I can't wait to see where he goes from here. Game Nerd is also cool.
Ah, damn.
So, for context there, Duckable is... well, Game Nerd is the fastest person to ever beat Super Mario Odyssey in Australia. So he has the Australian world record for beating this game and was the first Australian to beat it in under an hour. Duckable is, I think, third in Australia, and so one of our close friends.
Sub-hour contenders.
Yeah. Sub-hour is kind of viewed as the big milestone in this game and is a very challenging time to get, really difficult. So here in Ruined Kingdom, the main kind of part that you'll have to be concerned of is getting rid of those little, I don't even know what they're called, but like the little stakes on the dragon's head. And in order to do that, you take damage on when the dragon comes down for the sole reason you are slightly closer to those stakes and can hit them the frame that the dragon stops being like electrified. Because these, you can't hit them before the dragon stops like being purple and emitting lightning. So yeah,
Quick spin pound.
yeah, that's Ruined Kingdom. It's one of the worst kingdoms for nerves because you do this run, you've just finished like Luncheon Kingdom, which is massive, you're going into Bowser's Kingdom, which is also massive, and you kind of just have to sit there and wait out this boss fight, and it means that your nerves can build ridiculously, and sucks are on pace runs.
Yeah.
But it's also a great time to tell all your friends that you're on a really good paced run, and they all come and watch.
Yeah. In Bowser's Kingdom, there are 1,000,001 things that you can do that will lose you 40 to 50 seconds, and there's just nothing you can do about it except don't do them.
Yeah, Bowser's has, especially, okay, so Bowser's is another kingdom that is very linear. Because it's like the final kingdom of the game, not quite, but it's supposed to make you believe it is. Everything you need to collect, they don't tell you the required moon count to leave. There are just 4 story progression things, 3 story moons and 1 multi-moon that you have to do. And then you only need 8 moons, so 2 more moons to leave this kingdom. So it is very much get through the story as quickly as possible and finish off the kingdom. It has 3 boss fights, one of which is insanely difficult, and one of the most difficult parts of the run, shards, which is the 2nd story moon coming up here.
Yeah. Also, you'll notice I pointed my camera down there. It's because those Goombas are also RNG based. Where they are, sometimes it can mess you up, you take damage on it. But with this game, unless it's on camera, it basically doesn't exist.
Oh.
So I pointed my camera down there to despawn the Goombas.
Another thing here is triggering like this ogre to like bring down his hammer is a very precise thing, and infamously is what killed a sub-hour attempt for way back in the day, and it looks very simple. It looks like you can just run under it. It is very finicky and can often be really annoying to try and make the hammer come down at the right time.
Yeah. So yeah, coming up here where the next moon we have to collect 5 shards. There are a few different ways of doing it. The way I'm going to be doing it is called New Shards plus Birdless, where it's not even that new anymore, but it changes up the order of the shards a bit, and you don't use the bird at the end, as the name implies.
So that there is a really precise kind of bit of movement called dive back, and then another really precise bit of movement coming up here where you have to triple jump perfectly around this building. That is very precise. And then try and lure this bird to smash the crate.
Oh!
Unlucky.
That's $3 right there. Or $5 because I'm doing, that's 2 damages and I'm doing a death is $3. So, yeah, so that's $5 right there.
So, yeah, so basically what he was trying to do is that bird can poke its beak if you get there fast enough at the same time that the bomb goes by. When you're supposed to just capture it and hit the bomb, you actually don't need to be in the capture in order to poke these bombs and can just break this crate without having to capture. It saves 4 seconds?
Yeah, Birdless saves 4. Yeah. It's pretty crazy time save.
And there's another really hard trick coming up here, Bowser Dram. This works the exact same way that Sand Dram does and the Metro Dram does, where you have to leave Cappy out and dive up. This one is the one that I find the most challenging. I don't know about you. And it's really like finicky movement because you have to make sure you get enough height to make this jump, which is bizarrely precise.
And I got it.
Perfect.
That should be it at least. We're coming up to a really cool trick here with the Harriet boss fight, where I won't even say it, but it is a really cool one. You'll just have to wait and see. Like, it's called Tsar Bomber. So as it implies, it'll have to do with one of her bombs.
So yeah, hopefully this can be hit here. Oh, lucky.
I have a second chance at it though, because there are 3 phases. I don't think it's faster to do it on the second phase, but I'll do it anyways because it looks cool. Okay.
One more try.
One more try. Okay.
So basically what can happen there is if you hit both of the bombs back at Harriet, one of them can get stuck and is kind of just floating around for this like intermediate phase, and it means that the second Harriet respawns, you don't have to wait for it to like jump around and throw the bombs. You can just go straight, hit that bomb that has been floating around for the past phase, and go straight for it and stop Harriet from doing that kind of waiting process.
Ooh.
Another big thing in the community, which has been a debate since basically the game came out, is which boss fight you do first. You do not have to do Harriet first. I, in fact, think doing Harriet first is very cringe. But, and I personally prefer Topper first. But yeah, it's a big debate whether which boss fight you do first. That is really unfortunate. It doesn't lose that much time, though. Oh,
okay, I didn't grab the checkpoint, so I should have, but...
That's what you get for doing Harriet first.
Nah.
But yeah, so these are like... Basically, you have to break both those statues by beating both of these bosses. Boss fights in this game are really cool. In a lot of games, especially in a lot of Mario games, boss fights require two things. Doing a trivial action and then waiting for a prolonged period of time. Fortunately, in this game, these little intermediate phases where like Topper goes under his hat and they go everywhere can usually be skipped by doing like a little cool trick. And it's a cool thing built in by the devs to mean that the waiting process is eliminated by doing a slightly harder but faster strat, which I find very cool.
It is very cool. With Harriet, you wouldn't have known what the intended strat is by just watching me. But the intended strat for Harriet is she'll throw out those small bombs a few times, and then she'll throw out this really big bomb that is really easy to hit back to her. So, but those smaller bombs are a lot quicker.
Yeah. Basically, you have like 3 chances with a small bomb before the 4th one comes out. So, and so that means you can save like 10 seconds. I don't know. It's not really measured time.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned, you have to get 2 moons in this kingdom. The first one was the Dram Moon that we did earlier, and the second one is this one. There are 2 moons you can get here. This is the fastest one. The first one you can get a bit earlier in the kingdom for a probably easier but more consistent strat. Because here you have to do this jump where the camera sucks. But nailed it. A lot of runs can die there. It's a very easy choke point because, you know, the camera's not facing properly, and if you mess it up, you die and lose like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and sometimes the camera just likes to be a meanie and not center when you press R. So you basically have to try to get the cap bounce blind and then dive to a point that's really easy to bonk on without seeing where you're going.
And talking about choke points in a run, this is possibly the biggest. Mech is a ridiculously difficult fight where you're supposed to capture a Pokio, send the bombs back, the mech falls down, then you can hit one of these bubbles with a Pokio and then hit it 11 times and do that again and wait for long walking phases. Instead, doing some of the most difficult movement, you can climb up the side of the leg and break the bubbles by doing a ground pound with Mario. It is one of the most complex parts of the run and evolves so much as you get better.
Yeah. But the cool thing is there's a lot of different ways to do it. There's a way where you grab the bird but only use the bombs once.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is birdless. I don't even grab the bird. So I just climb up the side of the leg, all that. And even past that, there are different orders that you can hit the bubbles in. So what I did was I did right, back, top, left, which is the fastest known way to do it.
And let's not gloss over the fact that you just hit a strat called Target Acquired, which is ridiculously difficult. I hate it so much. It is such a difficult strat. But you nailed it there, where basically, instead, like the beginner strat, as you said, you can do the left bubble first, and what that means is you can wait for the mech to stop moving before you ground pound that bubble, which means you don't have to try and like predict where the mech is going to go as it's walking around, and then hit Harriet on top because you're not at risk of falling off because you've got this massive like surface area that you can stand on. However, there, by standing in a very specific position and doing well-timed cap bounces and a dive, and then hitting a very fast spin pound, you can land on top of Spewart, and before he starts moving, ground pound the spot, saving 3?
Yeah, 3.
3 seconds-ish. Very easy to mess up, and if you fall off, you then have to wait for the mech to walk around, stop moving, and then either try and climb up the side, which is really weird and not easy to do, or wait for it to spit out a Pokio, hit 2 bombs back at it, and it loses like 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Or in my case, a minute 10.
Shout outs to that run.
And we're coming into the final kingdom of the run, Moon Kingdom, which is where you finally meet Bowser for the final challenge and has what is the biggest time save in the entire run.
Yeah. 2-minute time save.
Yeah. Moon Cave skip, which is basically the entire thing with Moon Cave is you get here and you can see Bowser in the distance at the chapel. He's got Peach. They're having a wedding. It's like the high stakes, but you don't know how to get up that wall and have to go into a 2-minute long sub area that has a boss fight, some really long, complex movement, and takes about 2 minutes to get through. Instead, you can go around the side and doing a jump off the Sphinx, which we're about to see here from GameNerd, and skip that entire thing. It's obviously not necessary to complete the game, like do an 80% run, but is the trick that is recommended to learn first because it's just such a massive time save.
Yeah, I'm just realizing how mean we are to the Sphinx. We don't play his game to get into his vault, and then we just ground pound on his head to skip the Moon Cave. We are very mean to the Sphinx in this run.
Also, something to mention there, you are not supposed to be able to wall jump on walls that are 90 degrees from each other. So while it looked like he just kind of wall jumped up there and it was fine, he actually had to land on a very specific point, which meant that the game thought he wall jumped on a wall that is 180 degrees, like opposite the wall that he wall jumped on second. Yeah, parallel to the one that he jumped on second. So although it looks like pretty simple, it is quite finicky and you have to hit a pretty precise spot in order to get up there.
And into the second Bowser fight. This one is a bit different to the one we did in Cloud, but still really similar. So the differences are he does the tail swipes on every phase, and there are more hats.
And also there's fire.
Yeah, and there's this fire, which is really easy to go. That fire doesn't actually have detection. It is just a floor scan.
Yeah.
If it detects that you're on the floor while the fire is sweeping over you, it will do damage. But so as long as you jump before it gets you, you won't do damage. You can land in it and you won't take damage.
So yeah, we're about to get to the third phase where GameNerd is going to have to take damage once again. As you can see, just but he is going to he's going to take damage. Basically, what that does is the hats that Bowser throws at first, you can't do anything with them, but they can damage you when you're this close. So basically, he's just trying to avoid taking damage from that, so he can be in a good position to do that final fast hat. And yeah, that was a pretty clean Bowser fight.
Yeah.
The damage that he took earlier in the phase didn't lose any time, so it was fine. Yeah. And it comes into the last part of the run. Are you going to do...
Yeah, I'm going to do debatably the hardest trick done in RTA called 2DSS, which is 2D skip or 2D section skip, where you basically skip doing the 2D section by scaling the wall, by jumping on 7 very tiny little platforms that are on the outside of the 2D section. They are like 4 pixels each and very hard to hit.
As well as that, they're invisible, and if you jump, if Bowser is facing on the wrong angle, you get hit by an invisible ceiling, and the entire thing is so complex and so, like, got such invisible difficulty, it is beyond insane, and is at the very end of the run. Oh, hit the hardest one there. No way. Oh. Okay, so... Oh, unlucky. So the hardest part of this trick is this first jump here. Yeah, unlucky.
Okay.
So that part there is really difficult, and the ending one that he messed up on, the first attempt, they're like the 2 hardest parts of that trick. The fact that he even got that high up the wall is insane. Like, you can play for try that trick for like hours and still not even get halfway up that wall. It was a very impressive attempt. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the second last platform, which is very small. Did lose a bit of time. However, it was a very cool showcase. Very good attempt.
Yeah. So we will be going through the 2D section this time. There are some fast struts in here. We go up here, so we're already in line. And then, instead of going all the way around, we just... Oh. That was very close to being another death. We just jump around like that. If you don't do it like I did and actually get up first try, That saves 2 seconds.
And here we are approaching the very, very last part of the run, pillars, where you have to break these 5 pillars and you escape the collapsing Moon Kingdom and save Princess Peach. It's a very cool finale to the game, and also very hard to do optimally. And starts with a strat called Early Pillar, where he's going to try and launch 5 fireballs at this pillar before he even gets there.
And this room does actually work on a cycle as well. The falling rocks that you will see in a second, they are not RNG. They are based on a cycle. So you have to try go fast enough to beat the falling rocks. They can get in your way if you go too slow. So it is very annoying.
And just as we finish up here, I will just say, this is an incredible speed game. It is one of the biggest speed games in the world. I'd heavily recommend you check it out. There are so many resources. There's a Discord server. Check it out on speedrun.com. It's so incredible, so active, and is such a good community and an incredible run. And the what do you call it?
Timer stops when Bowser shoots out the wire, so now.
There you go. Great run.
104.46.
Let's go. GG.
Considering what happened, I'll take that.
Yeah, that was a good run. That was a really good run. Sick showcase.
Yeah.
Triple A clip, DSS.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. Donate to Game on Cancer. And I hope you enjoyed this.
Sweet.
Thank you.